Here's something that will blow your mind. A billionaire living in a literal golden tower somehow convinced millions of working class Americans he was their champion. The psychology behind this might be the greatest political illusion of our time.
That's fascinating when you think about it. The marketing genius required to pull that off is almost unprecedented in American politics.
And you know what makes it even more remarkable? Studies show his strongest supporters weren't even the poorest Americans. They were people who feared losing their social status. That's a crucial distinction.
Hmm. So it's more about perceived threats to identity than actual economic hardship.
Exactly. And this connects to something fascinating from American history: Bacon's Rebellion in 1676. Picture this: poor white workers, black servants, and enslaved people all united against the colonial elite. The ruling class was so terrified, they completely rewrote the laws.
Well, that's exactly the kind of historical context we need. The Virginia slave codes that followed essentially created a racial hierarchy to prevent that kind of unity from happening again, right?
Right? And here's where it gets really interesting. They gave poor whites just enough privileges to make them identify more with wealthy elites than their fellow workers. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing the same playbook just with updated tactics.
Like those Make America Great Again hats manufactured in China, while preaching America first. The irony is almost too perfect.
You know, the data on this is stunning. During Trump's presidency, CEOs saw their pay rise by 1,460% since 1978, compared to just 18% for workers. Yet somehow, the narrative remained focused on immigrants stealing jobs.
And those tariffs that were supposed to protect American workers ended up costing farmers $11 billion in lost exports, requiring a $28 billion taxpayer bailout.
But here's what really gets me: the impact on Black communities during this period. They were essentially hit twice, excluded from the benefits while being disproportionately harmed by the policies. During COVID 19, Black Americans died at 1.4 times the rate of white Americans.
So, what you're saying is the rhetoric of division had very real, measurable consequences?
Absolutely devastating ones. Take housing policy: rolling back fair housing protections, entrenched segregation, and denied Black families pathways to generational wealth. The median white household has 10 times the wealth of the median Black household.
Well, that really puts the economic anxiety narrative in perspective, doesn't it?
And here's where I think the metaphor of whiteness as a political drug becomes so powerful. It offers this cheap high of superiority to numb the pain of economic exploitation. But like any addiction, it's destroying the body, in this case, our democracy.
That's such a compelling way to frame it. The question is, how do we break this cycle?
You know, we're seeing some promising examples. States with strong multiracial coalitions have passed significant reforms, raising minimum wages, expanding healthcare access, implementing fair housing policies. It shows what's possible when we move past division.
Though it seems, whenever that kind of solidarity starts building, there's always pushback from those in power.
That's because they understand exactly how dangerous unity is to their interests. Just look at how corporations spend millions fighting unionization while simultaneously funding politicians who stoke racial grievances. Amazon spent $4.3 million fighting unionization in Alabama alone.
So, in the end, it's really about following the money.
Well, that's part of it. But it's also about understanding how these divisions are manufactured and maintained. The top 1% captured 38% of wealth growth since 2020, while the bottom 50% got just 4%. Those numbers tell the real story.
And yet, somehow, the conversation keeps getting redirected to cultural grievances instead of economic reality.
Because that's exactly how the system is designed to work. As James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We have to name these things for what they are
That's really what it comes down to, isn't it? Seeing through the illusion.
and building something better together. Because at the end of the day, that CEO paying poverty wages doesn't care what color you are. The real question is whether we'll finally wake up and recognize our common interests.